Well, good morning, beautiful. How are all my gorgeous friends this morning? I sure hope you have those eyes open and those feet on the floor. And if you don't, go ahead and jump right out of that bed right now. Let's start this day together. My name's Rebecca Casey, and I'm continuing my guest host spot here this week on Good Morning Beautiful Devotional. And thank you for joining me. Okay, if you weren't here yesterday, let me catch you up real quick. This week I'm doing a series called Who Am I? This is based on the story of Joseph from the book of Genesis. We're watching the crazy events that shape Joseph's life, but more interesting, we're watching who he becomes. We aren't just talking about Joseph. We're talking about ourselves. We're focusing on who we are becoming because that is more important and more interesting than who we are. We left off with Joseph's brothers who hate him, really, really hate him, having plotted to kill him, and then decide to spare his life and sell him into slavery. Oh, well, thanks, guys, for that, saving me and selling me into slavery. And yet they still trick their father into thinking he's dead. Jacob, his father, is heartbroken. This is his favorite son, his firstborn son from the love of his life, Rachel. And when you look at the family history here, Jacob lied to his father, deceived him, and stole from him when he was old and blind. Aren't his sons doing to him what he did to their father? We talked about why the sins of the parents might visit many generations, but that doesn't have to define us. We can choose to break the chain. I chose. If you need to choose differently, you can still do that. It's your choice, how you respond, and whether you stay with your suffering. So this is so dark and dramatic. Let's not forget, though, the promises that God made to this family, to Jacob, actually to Joseph's grandfather, Abraham. He promised him the land of Canaan. He promised that he would become the father of a great nation and that through you, all people will be blessed. Ultimately, this is going to happen through a Redeemer that God will send through this family. Wow. So look at these promises and put them up against the current situation, which is a complete disaster. Jacob is a disaster, and 11 of his 12 sons are disasters. I'm not seeing great nation from these guys yet. What's happening here can happen and has happened in many groups of people. When you're surrounded by the same group of people for a long time, things that are actually abnormal become normal to the group. You know, if you're telling someone about your workplace and their eyebrows shoot up with that, what the heck, look. Someone brings home their significant other to introduce the family barbecue, and afterwards he or she says, your family does that and that. And in both situations, the response is, oh, well, yeah, that's just who we are. That's our charm. Our office is kind of rough. Yeah, that's just who our family is. Yeah, I know. That's how our team is. There's always a lot of bickering. That's just who we are. Everybody makes up. Have you ever heard that, or thought that, or said that? What is abnormal can become normal. Play the outsider for a minute. Look inside. Is this normal? Now, don't you get all defensive. Just think about, is there a chance that you need to be part of a different choice? This is where Joseph's story begins to take shape. We see the stark contrast between Joseph and his brothers. Joseph is a great guy. His brothers are the opposite. This is one of the reasons he is attacked, he suffers, and he is sold into slavery. Redemption always has a price. Sometimes we pay the price. Sometimes others pay the price so we can experience the joy and the beauty of redemption. That is the whole point of Jesus. His suffering is what leads to our redemption. Sometimes it is simple suffering, and sometimes the suffering is great. This takes us back to Joseph. His family is a wreck. If they are ever going to become who God says they are supposed to be, then someone is going to have to redeem them. They are so far broken and lost, and it's not going to get better. They're in Canaan, and they are bitter and angry. And there is one member of their family who is not in Canaan. Joseph was shipped off to Egypt, and when he got there, he was sold off to a pretty powerful guy. He was sold to the man by the name of Potiphar. Potiphar is an official for the Pharaoh, who is the king of Egypt. So Joseph may be a slave, and he's in the place full of powerful people with all kinds of connections that one day will pay off pretty big for Joseph and his family. His story is a story of redemption. It's not really even about him. It is about his family. Before that redemption can happen, Joseph is going to suffer a whole lot. A whole lot. He pays an unthinkable price for a purpose much greater than he is. Joseph is away from his family, away from all of this dysfunction and anger and bitterness. And while away and not with his family, he is actually the one with the power. There's always a price that comes with redemption. Suffering is one of those things that is uncomfortable for us. We want to believe that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. That's not always true, is it? Good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people. And if you've been around here in mentoring for any length of time, there's this phrase, but God. Good things happen to good people. Bad things happen to bad people. And bad things happen to good people. And good things happen to bad people. But God. I know each and every one of you has witnessed this. We try to reconcile this as humans, but we cannot. Suffering isn't God's intent. It never was. It is what we did with his creation. It is because of sin. Sometimes we suffer for our own choices. Think about that. That is what sin usually is. It is a time when we feel justified and we act on a feeling of hate, lust, greed, bitterness, anger, jealousy, because we feel justified and we don't think beyond that single feeling at the moment. Joseph's brothers didn't think beyond their hatred and their anger and their bitterness. Oh, the price they pay. Oh, the price sometimes we pay. That price is suffering. Suffering may not be God's intent, but it is what he uses to redeem us. Oh, isn't that a brilliant twist? God's brilliant twist. Our suffering becomes a part of the redeeming work God is doing in us. Let that sink in for a minute. Let me say that again. Think about that. That is what sin usually is. It is a time when we feel justified and we act on that feeling of hate, lust, greed, bitterness, anger, because we feel justified and we do not think beyond that single feeling at that moment. Joseph's brothers didn't think beyond their hatred, their anger, their bitterness. Oh, the price they pay. Ah, man, sometimes the price we pay, and that price is suffering. Suffering may not be God's intent, but it is what he uses to redeem us. That's God's brilliant twist. Remember that sometimes our suffering isn't about us. It's about how God's redemptive power can pour out of us to the people around us. There's probably no more important factor in your life than how you react and how you deal with the suffering. That will probably shape you more than anything in your life. We all face difficulties and challenges and loss and grief, and you can get mad and angry at that time. But if you give in to the suffering and stay there, that is who you will become. Let me tell you, my story isn't all that important, but who I became and who I am becoming because of my suffering is much more interesting. And I am not bragging. It sucked to be abused. It sucked to lose more people as a young girl than I care to count. And I was lucky to have some pretty awful examples that had a whole line of awful examples before them that showed me what to not do. They took all the guesswork out of it for me. And I'm blessed to have a God who also forgives me for my mistakes, for anything that I did when I felt justified. or when I mirror a bad example. I was also fortunate to have others who were good examples, who I was watching. Again, if you've been around in mentoring for any amount of time, we also say they are watching you. Oh, that word they, the they. Who is the they? At that point, I was watching some young adults in my church who were about 7 to 10 years older than me. I was watching some of my friends' parents. I was watching teachers who I admired. I was the they who was watching. We say your kids are watching, and they are. You don't have kids? Your coworkers are watching. People at the gym are watching. People in line at the grocery store are watching. People at school are watching. Won't you prompt them to ask the question, what does she have? Why didn't that piss her off? Wow, she just smiled and said, it's okay. I encourage you to choose to thrive versus just survive. Now, I watch my mentor. I watch happily married couples that are real and open. I watch my best friend and his wife. I watch my mother. I watch people who set goals and achieve them. Sometimes I watch them learn 100 ways not to accomplish something, but they never quit. Sometimes I glance, not watch, an example of a train wreck, and I realize, that's not for me. I still watch. I suffer. We all do. I do not stay in the suffering. Paul writes in Romans 5:3-4, not only so, but we also glory in our sufferings because we know that suffering produces perseverance, character, and character, hope. I can tell you that if you let it, this suffering, this loss, this difficulty will become something beautiful. And there is no shortcut. We always want the easy way out of suffering. I do. Don't you? That's just human. And it's sometimes a long road. There's a beautiful quote I heard a few weeks back by Abraham Lincoln. He says, I am a slow walker, but I never walk back. Now back to Joseph. If he can look ahead, if he can see into the future, the joy that is set before him, if he can endure, then he can do for his family what they cannot do for themselves. He is on the road. If you can endure and persevere, and if you can hold on to the hope that this will become something good and your story will become a much bigger part of redemption and it will touch those around you. Today, I encourage you, like Abraham, never walk back. Like Joseph, look to the joy that is set before you. Remember your Redeemer. This story gets better. We had just one prayer request come in today, and actually we had a praise request. Oh, ladies, those are my favorite. We had a praise request. Would you pray with me, please? Dear Heavenly Father, we come to you on this Tuesday morning, and we thank you for this beautiful morning you've set before us and the day that is before us. And we first just come to you, and we praise you and thank you for the successful surgery that Mr. Freeman had yesterday. Thank you for being with him, for being with that family. And we give you the glory for that successful surgery. We continue to lift him up to you today for pain management. It is hard recovering from open heart surgery, and we just ask you to continue to keep your healing hand on him and to guide the medical team as they try to manage his pain. God, I thank you for each and every person on this phone call and the people who are listening afterwards. Some of us are suffering, and it is difficult on that long road. Would you remind us to look forward and to persevere and endure? Look at the joy that is set before us. Just remind us of that when we get lost. And if we decide that we feel justified in the moment, would you nudge us and remind us, think again before we act. Think again before we bring the sin into our lives and have to pay the price for it. We're human, God, and We thank you for understanding that and for forgiving us, but we ask you to nudge us, nudge our children, nudge our family members when that justification, that sweet justification starts to creep in, because it's not sweet for long. God, please bless every woman on this call. Be with their families, keep them safe, protect them, and provide for them. Circle those who are in need and remind them that there is hope and there's joy that is set before each and every one of us, and we thank you for that. We thank you for redeeming us. It is in your great name we pray. Amen. Okay, ladies, we have another daily challenge, and today's challenge is to buy or pick flowers for yourself. It doesn't have to be something huge unless you just need that giant bouquet from Costco or Sam's Club and you need that on your table. It's simple. You can go out and just pick a couple roses, a couple of daisies, put them in a tiny little vase and put them up by your bed. Do that for yourself. Do it for someone in your family. Do it for the entire family. Up to you. Buy or pick flowers. Are you traveling today? Is there just not that opportunity? Then make it up. Find a picture and put it on your phone. Get creative, my friends. Don't cheat yourself out of the creativity that lies within you, because I know it is there. Buy or pick flowers and share on our private mentoring page how you did that. My friends, I've enjoyed this time with you. Thank you so much for being with me, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I love you all. Bye-bye.